Okay, so get this. We're going deep on a study from 2023 on rosemary extract and ADHD. But here's the thing. It wasn't done on humans. It was done on rats.
Mm.
Now, before you think, well, how does that even apply to me? This study was seriously in-depth.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't just, watch the rats run around. We're talking behavioral tests,
Right.
brain chemistry analysis, even getting down into their genes.
Wow.
And the findings about how rosemary impacted those rats.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by this.
I'm intrigued already. The study used a clever approach. They actually gave the rats ADHD-like symptoms to then see if the rosemary could counteract those effects.
So how do you even give a rat ADHD?
Right.
Like, it's not like you could just, hand them a fidget spinner.
Exactly. No, they used Rotenone.
Okay.
It's a natural pesticide, but it kind of messes with brain function in a way that actually mimics ADHD in humans.
Okay.
And the key here is dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter,
Right.
crucial for attention and motivation.
Yeah.
And Rotenone disrupts how the brain produces it.
So the rotenone basically throws off their dopamine balance.
Exactly.
Okay, I gotcha. So then where does the rosemary come into play here?
Well, the researchers, they gave the rats rosemary extract along with the Rotenone.
Good.
They really wanted to see if the rosemary could protect their brains from the Rotenone's damaging effects. And get this.
Yeah.
They didn't just look at how the rats behaved, They measured oxidative stress markers, they examined brain tissue, and they even looked at gene expression.
Wow.
They really were thorough.
So it was kind of like a triple layer investigation.
Yeah.
Like behavior, brain chemistry, and genes.
That's precise.
That's intense for just a simple herb like rosemary.
It is. It's fascinating.
So what kind of behavioral tests did they actually do?
So they used three main tests. There was the object recognition test, which looks at attention, the cliff avoidance test that measures impulsivity,
Gotcha.
and then the open field test to assess hyperactivity.
So all the classic ADHD symptoms, but measured in rats.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool. What about the brain chemistry stuff? What were they even looking for there?
Okay, so they measured things like malondialdehyde. It's called MDA.
MDA, okay.
And then nitric oxide, that's NO.
Okay.
And those are indicators of oxidative stress.
Yeah.
So basically damage to brain cells.
Okay.
They also looked at glutathione, that's GSH.
Okay.
It's an antioxidant that protects the brain.
Okay, I see.
And for the gene analysis, they really focused on caspase-3 involved in cell death.
Okay.
And then tyrosine hydroxylase, which is essential for making dopamine.
So a lot of data.
A lot of data points, yeah.
All right, so drum roll, please.
Mm-hmm.
Did the rosemary live up to the hype? What did they find?
All right, so this is where it gets really interesting. The Rotenone, it actually didn't make the young rats hyperactive, which was not what we expected.
Really?
Yeah, previous studies had shown hyperactivity, but this time it didn't happen. So right off the bat, science isn't always black and white.
So wait, if the rotenone didn't make the rats hyperactive, how do we even know if the rosemary did anything?
That's a great question. It's possible that, the age of the rats or the way they measured activity in the study played a role. They were only 29 days old.
Okay.
And the activity test was different from some other studies.
So tiny details can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
But what about the rosemary, though? Like, any noticeable effects from the rosemary itself?
While those hyperactivity results were a bit of a mystery, the rosemary did show some positive effects on both behavior and brain health in the Rotenone-exposed rats.
So even though it wasn't like a total slam dunk,
Mm-hmm.
the rosemary was still doing something?
Exactly. Yeah, so in the object recognition test, the rats given rosemary, they had a better recognition index,
Right.
meaning they were better at paying attention.
Yeah.
They were also less likely to fall from the cliff in the cliff avoidance test,
Oh, wow.
suggesting they were less impulsive.
So it seems like the rosemary might have been like protecting them from some of those negative effects of the rotenone, even if they weren't full-blown hyperactive.
Yeah.
So what was happening in their brains to explain all of this?
Okay, so that's where things get even more fascinating. Remember those oxidative stress markers we talked about?
Yeah.
So the Rotenone, it caused those to increase, which means there was, more damage happening in their brains.
Okay.
But the rosemary extract, it seemed to counteract those negative effects. bringing things back to a healthier balance.
So this little herb was actually fighting off, like, brain cell damage.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why this research is so interesting.
It is. It is really interesting.
And it wasn't just oxidative stress, right? You mentioned inflammation, too.
Yeah, inflammation is another key player in a lot of brain disorders. They found that rosemary actually helped reduce those inflammatory markers in the rotenone-exposed rats as well.
Wow, rosemary is sounding more and more like a multitasking brain protector.
It is.
But we're about to go even deeper, aren't we? You mentioned something about looking at genes.
We are. That's
Yeah.
where we get to see how rosemary might be working at a cellular level to protect those rat brains.
Like, so last we left off, rosemary was showing some serious potential, in protecting those rat brains from damage. I mean, it seems like this little herb is kind of a scientific powerhouse.
It really is.
But before we get too carried away, you mentioned that rosemary might actually be, like, influencing genes.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty complex for something that you just, like, sprinkle on your food.
It is. It is fascinating. So remember how we talked about caspase-3, which is involved in cell death, and tyrosine hydroxylase,
Yeah.
which is crucial for making dopamine.
Right.
Well, they found that rotenone, it actually increased caspase-3 expression,
Okay.
suggesting more brain cell death.
Gotcha.
It also decreased tyrosine hydroxylase expression,
Okay.
which could really mess with dopamine production.
So rotenone was basically like a double whammy,
Yeah.
killing brain cells and then also messing with dopamine.
Okay.
But what did rosemary do?
Okay, so here's the really cool part. Rosemary extract reversed both of those effects.
What?
Yeah, so it dialed down that caspase-3 protecting brain cells.
Wow.
And it bumped up the tyrosine hydroxylase, potentially boosting dopamine production.
So rosemary was like a cellular bodyguard.
Yeah.
Stepping in to protect the brain from Rotenone's attack.
Exactly.
That's incredible. But this was all in rats, right?
Right.
So does any of this even apply to humans with ADHD?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. While these findings are incredibly exciting, we have to remember that rat brains and human brains, while similar in some ways, they're not identical. So we can't just assume that rosemary will have the same effects in humans.
So what would it take to figure that out? I mean, more research, obviously, but what kind?
Human clinical trials would be the gold standard.
Yeah.
We need to see if rosemary extract has the same benefits in people with ADHD. And those trials would have to be, well designed with a large enough sample size, control group, and a placebo to rule out, any placebo effects.
So basically a lot more rigorous testing to make sure those rat findings actually, translate to humans.
But exactly.
What else would researchers have to, like, consider?
Well, they'd need to figure out the optimal dose and form of rosemary extract for ADHD.
Right.
This study used a specific dosage and method, but there might be other ways to administer it that are, more effective, like capsules, teas, or even combining it with other herbs or compounds.
So it's like finding the perfect rosemary recipe for ADHD.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I imagine they'd also have to, like, look at long-term effects, right? Like we're not talking about a quick fix here.
Exactly. Yeah, this study focused on short-term effects, but we need to know if rosemary extract is safe and effective over time.
Yeah.
And how might it, interact with other ADHD treatments like medications or therapy. There's a lot more research that needs to be done.
So this is definitely a stay tuned situation.
Yeah.
But even with those caveats, I mean, this study is still pretty groundbreaking, wouldn't you say?
It is, absolutely. It sheds light on the potential of rosemary extract as a neuroprotective agent. And not just for ADHD, but possibly for other conditions that involve, brain inflammation and oxidative stress. And it opens up this whole new avenue for exploring natural remedies alongside more traditional treatments.
Like rosemary is suddenly this multifaceted wonder herb.
It really is.
With all these potential benefits, we're just beginning to understand. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that every study has limitations, and we need to be aware of those too. Right?
You're absolutely right. Even the most well-designed study has limitations.
Right.
And in this case, we have to remember that the rotenone didn't actually cause hyperactivity in the rats, which was, unexpected. So we need to be, cautious about drawing conclusions about rosemary's effects on that specific symptom.
So while the rosemary did show, like, some positive effects. We can't say for sure if it would actually help with hyperactivity in humans. It's like a piece of the puzzle is missing.
Yeah.
What else should we keep in mind?
Well, the study, it only looked at a specific strain of rats
Right.
and a particular dosage of rosemary extract. Different strains of rats might, respond differently, and varying doses of rosemary could have different effects.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nuance to consider.
It's a reminder that science is a process, not a destination.
Exactly.
We're always learning and refining our understanding.
Absolutely.
But speaking of understanding, we've talked a lot about what the researchers did and what they found. But how about the how?
Right.
Like, can we get into the nitty gritty of their methodology?
Absolutely. Yeah. The strength of any scientific study really lies in its methodology. So let's delve into the specifics of how the researchers conducted this groundbreaking research.
Yeah.
They started with a clear hypothesis that rosemary extract could protect against rotenone's neurotoxic effects in juvenile rats.
So they had a specific question in mind, and they designed the whole experiment to answer it.
Precisely, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. What did they do next?
They very carefully selected their subjects. 24 juvenile albino rats, all just 5 days old at the start of the study. And they divided them into 4 groups, each with 6 rats, to ensure a statistically significant sample size.
So enough rats in each group to make sure the results weren't just like a fluke.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So what were the 4 groups then?
Okay, so group 1 was the control group.
Okay.
They received only olive oil, which was used to dissolve both the rotenone and the rosemary extract.
Okay.
So this gave them a baseline to compare the other groups against.
Got it. The control group is like the business as usual group.
Exactly.
What about the other 3?
So group 2 received only rosemary extract, dissolved in olive oil, for 4 weeks.
Okay.
This allowed the researchers to isolate rosemary's effects, independent of rotenone.
Smart. So they could see if rosemary was doing anything on its own.
Exactly.
What about group 3?
Okay, so group 3 received only rotenone,
Okay.
also dissolved in olive oil for 4 days. This was their model for ADHD-like symptoms.
Okay, so group 3 was where they intentionally messed with the rats' brains to mimic ADHD.
Exactly.
And finally, group 4.
Group 4 received both rotenone for 4 days and rosemary extract for 4 weeks. This was the key group.
Yeah.
Where they could see if rosemary protected the rats from rotenone's harmful effects.
So it's like setting up a battle between rotenone and rosemary.
Yeah.
With the rat's brains as the battlefield.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's a classic experimental design, having, a control group, groups that receive each treatment in isolation, and then the group that receives both.
Right.
To see how they interact.
So we've got our 4 groups all set up.
Uh-huh.
What do they actually do with these rats?
Okay, so they started with a series of behavioral tests on day 29 after the last injection. These tests, remember, were designed to assess those core ADHD symptoms:
Oh, right.
attention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity.
So they were really putting those rats through their paces.
They were
Watching how they reacted. Which tests did they actually use?
So they used the object recognition test, the cliff avoidance test, and the open field test, each
Okay.
measuring, a different aspect of behavior.
Let's break those down. What exactly does the object recognition test involve?
Okay, so in this test, they expose the rats to 2 identical objects.
Got it.
Then they replace one object with a new, more interesting one.
Okay.
And rats with, a good attention and memory will spend more time exploring the new object.
So it's testing their curiosity and ability to remember what they've already seen.
Precisely, yeah. And in this study, the rats given rosemary extract, they had a better recognition index,
Okay.
meaning they were better at paying attention to the new object.
Interesting. So it seems like the rosemary might have been like giving their attention a boost.
Yeah.
What about the cliff avoidance test? What's that all about?
So this one measures impulsivity.
Okay.
They place the rats on a platform with a steep drop off.
Okay.
And rats with good impulse control will hesitate before approaching the edge.
Right.
While while more impulsive rats might be more likely to take the plunge, so to speak.
So it's testing their self-control
Yeah.
and ability to kind of assess risk.
Precisely. And the rats given rosemary extract were less likely to fall from the cliff, suggesting they were less impulsive.
It's like Rosemary's helping them chill out a bit.
Yeah.
And think before they act. What about the open field test? How does that one work?
So this is a classic test for measuring general activity and exploration. They put the rats in a large open area and track their movements. More active rats, they explore more. Less active rats might stay near the edges or not move much at all.
So it's like a way to see like how adventurous they are.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And
Right.
and remember how the rotenone didn't cause hyperactivity in this study?
Yeah.
Well, the rats given rosemary, they actually showed significantly more movement in the open field test
Huh.
compared to the control group.
That's fascinating. So while the Rotenone didn't have its intended effect, the rosemary still seemed to like influence their activity levels
Yeah.
in a positive way. Like it was encouraging them to explore more.
Exactly. It just goes to show that, behavior is complex and we need to look at multiple factors to understand what's really going on.
Yeah.
But remember, we also need to consider what was happening inside their brains, like at the biochemical level.
Right, because behavior is just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
So let's dive into those brain chemistry analyses.
Okay.
What did they find there?
Okay, so they began by analyzing oxidative stress markers.
Right.
Remember those harmful free radicals we talked about earlier?
Yep.
They can damage cells, including brain cells, through a process called oxidation.
So kind of like rusting, but happening inside the brain.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. So they measured levels of malondialdehyde, MDA,
Right.
and nitric oxide, NO, which are byproducts of this oxidative stress. They also measure levels of glutathione, GSH,
Okay.
a powerful antioxidant that helps protect cells from damage.
So it's like a constant battle between those damaging free radicals and the protective antioxidants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as you might expect, the rotenone, it caused those oxidative stress markers, the MDA and the NO, to increase.
Right.
And it caused the protective antioxidant, the GSH, to decrease.
Okay, that makes sense considering rotenone is toxic.
Yeah.
What about the rosemary? Did it like shift that balance at all?
So that's where things get, really, really interesting. The rosemary extract, it countered those negative effects.
Really?
Yeah. It brought down the MDA and NO levels and increased GSH levels, suggesting that it was protecting those brain cells from oxidative damage.
So rosemary was stepping in to like fight off those damaging free radicals.
Yeah.
Like a tiny little warrior protecting those delicate brain cells.
That's a great way to visualize it.
But it wasn't just about oxidative stress, right? Yeah. There was also the issue of inflammation.
Yeah, you're right. Inflammation is another key player in brain health.
Right.
And it's often linked to ADHD. When the body senses injury or infection, it triggers an inflammatory response to fight off invaders and repair damage.
It's like the body's natural defense system.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But when inflammation becomes chronic, it can actually start to, harm healthy tissues, including brain tissue.
So too much of a good thing can be bad.
Precisely. And not surprisingly, the study found that rotenone increased levels of those inflammatory markers in the rat's blood.
Right.
But once again, rosemary extract came to the rescue.
I guess the rosemary helped to reduce those inflammatory markers.
Got it. It seemed to be calming that inflammatory response that was triggered by the rotenone.
It's remarkable how rosemary seems to be like tackling multiple aspects of brain health, oxidative stress, inflammation, and now even gene expression as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it really is. It's a testament to the complexity and the interconnectedness of these systems in the body, and how a natural remedy like rosemary might be able to influence that balance in a positive way.
It's like rosemary is this multifaceted brain protector with a whole arsenal of tools at its disposal.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, we're just scratching the surface here.
Right.
Imagine what other secrets Rosemary might hold, waiting to be discovered through further research.
That's what I love about science, is that there's always more to learn,
Yeah.
always more to explore.
Exactly.
But before we get too carried away with possibilities, let's take a step back and revisit the limitations of this study.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every study has its limitations, and it's important to acknowledge those limitations to avoid overstating, the findings.
So let's put on our critical thinking caps and really examine those limitations.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that we need to keep in mind? So we've really gone deep on this rosemary research, and I think it's safe to say this little herb is a lot more than just a garnish.
It really is.
But before we all start, sprinkling rosemary on absolutely everything, let's talk about what it all means. Like, big picture, what can we actually take away from this study?
The key takeaway, I think, is rosemary extract's potential as a brain protector.
Okay.
The study showed it could shield those rat brains from the damage caused by the rotenone, which, remember, was mimicking some aspects of ADHD. But it is crucial to emphasize that this was an animal study.
Right.
We can't jump to conclusions about human applications just yet.
Right. So no rosemary infused cures just yet.
Not quite.
But even if it's not like a magic bullet, the idea that rosemary could offer some level of protection is pretty exciting, right?
It is. It is.
Especially when we think about, the long-term impact of ADHD on the brain.
Absolutely. And remember, this protection was happening on several different levels. Rosemary was reducing oxidative stress, it was calming inflammation, and even impacting the expression of genes related to cell death and dopamine production.
So rosemary is like a multi-pronged shield almost.
Yeah.
For the brain.
Yeah.
Fighting off all those damaging effects.
Yeah.
I'm curious what kind of research would need to happen next to really, really solidify these findings and explore how rosemary could be used for ADHD in humans.
Well, as we've mentioned, human clinical trials are a must. We need to see if those rat results hold up in people with ADHD, and those trials need to be rigorous with large, diverse groups of participants, a control group and a placebo, to make sure any observed effects are truly due to rosemary and not just a placebo effect.
So lots more research is needed to confirm these findings and figure out the specifics of how rosemary could be used for ADHD. What else would researchers need to kind of explore?
Well, dosage is a big one. This study used a specific dosage and form of rosemary extract, but there might be other more effective ways to take it. Capsules, teas, maybe even combining rosemary with other herbs or compounds. It's about finding that sweet spot for maximum benefit.
So like fine-tuning the rosemary recipe for ADHD.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
What about long-term effects? That seems pretty crucial too, right?
Absolutely. We know the short-term effects looked promising.
Right.
But we need to know if rosemary extract is safe and effective over time. And what about potential interactions with other ADHD treatments like medications or therapy? There's a lot of angles to consider.
This is definitely an ongoing investigation then.
It is. But even with all the caveats, I mean, this study has sparked some serious curiosity, hasn't it? I mean, who knew rosemary could have this kind of potential?
It really challenges our assumptions about what we think we know, even about something as familiar as a common herb, and that's what makes science so fascinating. It constantly pushes us to reconsider, to reevaluate, and explore new possibilities.
So for our listeners who are now likely eyeing their spice rack with renewed interest, what's the bottom line? What should they take away from all of this?
Well, first and foremost, don't jump to conclusions.
Right.
This study provides intriguing evidence, but it's not a green light to self-treat ADHD with rosemary. More research is needed.
But it does give us reason to be optimistic, right? To see natural remedies like rosemary as potential allies in promoting, brain health. Wow.
And possibly even helping with with ADHD symptoms alongside, other approaches.
Exactly. It encourages us to be open-minded, to explore both traditional and alternative approaches, and to keep learning. Who knows what other discoveries are waiting to be unearthed, even in our own kitchens.
But well said. So to our listeners, stay curious, keep those questions coming, and don't be afraid to explore the world with a fresh perspective. You never know what amazing insights might be waiting for you just around the corner.
That's the beauty of knowledge, isn't it? There's always more to discover.
Yeah.
Always another layer to peel back. And sometimes the most unexpected sources can hold the most profound insights.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into Rosemary and ADHD.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world around us.